Hello, hello, we're at the end of HF Feb. Almost. And so we got another Hero Factory episode to celebrate that. Of course, I will go back to your regular scheduled programming of miscellaneous themes and well, to some degree, a bit of a stronger focus on Bionicle, but of course there'll be the other few Hero Factory episode here and there. So if you're enjoying the Hero Factory kick we're having right now, more will come in the future, but as will the normal themes as well. Still, HF Feb, what is that? It's hashtag Let's Build Heroes, and let's build some villains too. Essentially, in the month of February, people are building heroes, people are building villains, and putting it under the hashtag Let's Build Heroes. And that's literally it. Anyone who wants to build some, it's just the spirit of fun for it. But hey, just because we're building it in the month of February doesn't mean you can't build some in March, or April, or May, or whatever. Just build heroes because it's fun. But we're specifically celebrating it now. So we're going to cover a bunch of heroes and villains today in this final episode of HF Feb coverage, Hero Factory related stuff. Let's begin. This first mock's by Johan Dakish, and it is called Thornracks. So of course, Thornracks was an official Bionicle, or Hero Factory set. So easy to confuse those terms. An official construction set, if you will. This is what it originally looked like, and this is Johan's version of it. And Johan's done a really, really good job. I love that he's taken out a bunch of that azure that was on Thornracks and just kind of stripped it back a little bit and focused a bit more on black. Now, don't get me wrong, I think azure is a beautiful color, and I remember when it came out on this set, it was amazing. It was a brand new color at that time, and yeah, it really, really was a big selling point for this set, at least for me specifically. But I like that what Johan has specifically done with this version of Thornracks that he's made is he's really tried to make it a lot more similar to being very bug-like. So I've got a picture of it to compare it with a mosquito. I assumed a mosquito was more or less what this was being inspired by. I'm sure there's a plethora of other different bugs or insects that this took inspiration from, but also I wouldn't be surprised if Johan just sort of put his own unique touches on it. But it's really cool to see that he's had a stronger and closer look at making this more authentic and more realistic, and that really shows here. So let's dive in a bit deeper. So as we can see with the original source material there, we notice that a lot of the different limbs are a lot more realistic on this version of Thornracks. The fact that he has multiple different limbs, whether it's a sort of the back ones, the middle ones, or the ones that have the sort of more pronounced like weapons on them, that's definitely a lot closer to a mosquito or other types of bugs. I also like how Johan's used a lot of sort of very slim, thin, kind of slightly curved pieces as well to really match how the source material looks. Specifically, I love how he's used those very long claw pieces in black on the very back there. Those really effectively match what's actually going on there quite well. It fits the source material well, and I think that's such a good idea, whether you're building a bug, an animal, a monster, or something that exists in the real world, or something that exists in fiction. I think it's really important to take a deep look at a lot of different source material and really study what they're doing and see how you can implement that yourself into what it is that you're making. Because, yeah, like we see here, it goes a long way, and it can make the mock really, really stand out, really shine, really look just that much cooler. Even the little stuff of adding some of those orange pincers and a few other little kind of things around the mouth of Thornracks there, because again, that kind of seems to match how an actual mosquito might look, or an actual bug might look. So that's a really great approach for Thornracks, and you know, it seems very fitting with the original concept. And we'll take a few look at a couple different angles now. So seeing little bits of azure kind of on the arms there, just the way they kind of flare out to some degree, kind of looks a bit like fur or hair of some kind. And you often see that on bugs like bees and different things, that they do have that sort of weird kind of furry texture in areas. So it's cool to see that there, because it does make it look even more bug-like, even more kind of creepy, crawly, disgusting, and cool. And seems very fitting, especially for the fact this guy is a villain. You know, adding a lot of those sort of rougher, kind of creepier textures certainly works in its favor. I also love those sort of primary weapons that it has on its sort of front, feet, arm, leg things. The fact that they have those little orange spikes poking out at the bottom there. They might even be Keat orange. No, I think they are orange spikes. Hard to tell from these pictures, but regardless, I love that, because again, it looks so bug-like in nature. It's just a really great use of that piece there, which I know some of those have come on different Ninjago Dragon sets. So if you want to play around with some of those, that's a place to look. But yeah, what a fantastic version of Thornracks, and a great way of really paying homage to what the original one was trying to do and just taking it to an entirely different level. I mean, that's a great way to approach building a hero or a villain in the month of February, and certainly something that you could easily do yourself. So take a look at some of the things that some of the sets and heroes and villains were based off, and see if you can kind of match that yourself. I think it's a great idea. All right, let's move on to the next mock. This one is by Swinova32, and this is Blizzard Sentinel, something like that. So this is awesome. He says that he builds a lot of his mocks in sort of digital rendering stuff, and he does some sort of different edits and things to really make the photo shine. And he certainly meant that when he said it, because there's some really, really cool edits, and also just the fact that this is built in a digital world. It really looks nice, and the lighting on it's beautiful, and it just complements the mock really well. So that alone is really cool, and never forget you can build in different digital programs and things, and still accomplish stuff. So if you're low on your pieces building digitally, you have access to heaps of pieces. So something to think about. But yeah, a lot to love about this mock. So I love how this mask looks, and I love how it sort of fits in with the general kind of textures and overall look of this character. So specifically taking a look at that mask, where's it from? Well, he says here that the mask is an adaptive Miru made by Galvaniz. So I'll put a link to his Instagram in the description there. So if you want to take a look at some of his stuff, that's where he got that mask from. And otherwise, there's a plethora of different places that you can buy more custom masks like that online, whether it's Shapeways or Red Star Forge, a whole different amount of places like that. So be sure to check that sort of stuff out, because masks are cool, and even though it may not be an official Lego piece, you can still go a long way and be really cool. So definitely worth it. I love to, in this little edit here, how he has that that sort of speaker piece that came on Stringer, the Hero Factory hero, and how in some of the images it just looks like some kind of cool gadget that he's got on his arm, but in other ones it's kind of glowing this beautiful blue, and it kind of makes it look like it's some sort of like pop-up shield of sorts. I really like that idea. So that's certainly something you could do yourself. It's a pretty easy way of having an interesting weapon. And if you're really good at editing, you can make it look even cooler. Or maybe if you're not, you can just use your imagination and stuff. But hey, it's really, really nice. I think that's a fantastic detail. And also his gun is absolutely beautiful, having that scope piece that came on Gully Mystica, and just adding a whole bunch of really cool stuff on it, whether it's that sort of kind of little guard that goes around the place he's kind of grabbing onto the gun there, just to protect his arm from getting blasted off or anything, and all the different kind of scopes and lasers and all sorts of cool stuff. It's a very unique design and works really well. And the final little detail I really love is the Stormer masks on the shoulders there. Just always cool to see masks being used as shoulder armor. I think that's really cool. So yeah, definitely play around with different amount of weapons, or cool like a shield thing, or different kind of gadgets that your Hero Factory hero could have, because it certainly goes a long way like we've seen here. So hopefully that gives you some unique ideas if you want to approach a hero yourself. So that's it for that one. Let's move on to another one. This is a Hero Factory mock of Black Phantom, bit of a slight revamp here, and it's by Nick Builds Heroes. So, Senior Nick, awesome stuff here. What he was saying here in the description is the fact that he wanted to build something, but for HF Feb, but he just sort of added some very slight modifications to Black Phantom here, and I really, really like that, because we're almost at the end of HF Feb as February comes to a close, but that doesn't mean that you still can't get something in as a sort of last-minute little addition to HF Feb. You could very easily just revamp one of your favorite sets, put a few little slight modifications on them, and that could go a really long way. So let's take a look at some of the specific things he's done here. So taking a look at the lower legs here, he's added a little bit of additional armor there, just to kind of pad it out a little bit, fill in some of the gaps, and just make it look that extra little bit more nice. And additionally, he's put some tires on the lower arms, and also he's kind of armored up the back sort of like additional kind of weapon prong spike things that he's got coming out of his back there. Just kind of buff them out a little bit more, just to make it look a little bit more menacing, a little bit more like additional appendages to some degree. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's really, really cool. So yeah, seriously, I think just those little slight things, they go a long way. And I think that's something that you could think about yourself, if you're interested, is to do that. What sort of slight modifications can you do on one of your favorite sets just to improve it that little bit more? And hey, that might kind of honor what you might want to do in HF Feb, just to build something, even if it's small, and even if you have a limited time frame to build in, that could work really well. Something to think about. A small thing, but it goes a long way. So really nice work there, Nick. Love what you did. Let's move on to this next mock here. It's by TH, and it's called Vapor. So, of course, Vapor was an original Hero Factory set. It was a really cool one, actually. And this is what it looks like here, and this is how Mr. TH here has revamped it and made it a lot cooler. So, just quickly, I think this set was awesome because it came with bulk with 2 gun arms, and it came with Vapor for him to fight. And it's one of few Bionicle sets that you got that actually came with a character that could fight another character. Surprisingly, that was oddly rare, at least for one specific set. Obviously, you could buy 2 separate Bionicle sets and have them fight, but having a set that's based around the idea of this guy's fighting this guy, surprisingly uncommon. So I just think this was just, in general, just a really good idea for a set. But yeah, it's cool to see Vapor getting a little bit more love, because I feel like he's one of the forgotten original Hero Factory villains to some degree, but he's still just as cool. So let's talk about what he's doing here and how cool a lot of it is. I love what he's done with the weapons here. The original Vapor set had those 2 Zamisphere launchers on both arms and didn't actually have any hands, which practically, that would really suck, because you'd be like, let me just text my friend. Okay, I just shot my phone, you know? Like, it'd be really difficult. So I like the fact that this is a little bit more practical. He has hands that he can do stuff with, but he still has weapons on both of those hands. Whether it's that really, really cool looking updated gun that he's got, also has that cool scope as well, and how it links up to that barrel on his back, giving him a bit more of justification for being called Vapor. Like, you can imagine there's some sort of, I don't know, interesting water attack thing that, you know, comes out of that gun that's linked up to that barrel on his back. I really like that. Just a great way of kind of justifying the name a bit and just making his weapons all that more unique. Plus the fact that he's also got that blade that the original one had, but he sort of stylized it in a few different ways there and made it look even cooler and more unique. It's, again, just really, really nice. Something else that I also enjoy is the fact that that big old, like, vapor canister thing on the back of his back kind of is, maybe this isn't deliberate, but it's kind of a slight homage to Rotor, at least the way I'm looking at it. Of course, Vapor had the exact same mask as Rotor, just in blue. But, of course, Rotor, his main weapon was the Rotor on his back. So I kind of like the fact that it almost sort of makes Vapor look like his brother or his cousin or something, and that they share some sort of similarity with just where their weapons are and all that sort of stuff, you know? Again, maybe that's a little bit of a push, but hey, I think that's at least interesting and just kind of fun to play around with because the characters are, you know, similar in that regard. At least in the facial area, they're very similar. I love, too, that he's also introduced a little bit more orange on this mock. He still has that tube that the original one has, but he also has those orange Hero Factory shells on the upper arms. That little extra pop of orange there, I think, goes a long way and really makes the color scheme look even more pretty. Really makes it pop. It's very nice. One thing that I think is important to note as well is the fact that the legs haven't been changed on this revamp, and yet I think that's really awesome that they haven't been changed, because I think it works. You don't always need to change every single aspect of a revamp when you're refocusing a character. Some of the original stuff might have worked really well, so keep it. Why not, you know? He has changed up the legs, and I think that's the feet, sorry. He has changed the feet, mixing up my terms. But I think that's a really good thing to do, because the claws I don't think would have worked with the sort of textures that he's really playing with on this this revamp here. Whereas those sort of smoother Metru feet there work a lot better and just being more unified with the rest of this mock. So I like that a lot. I think it's a wise decision to change those out, but also a wise decision to keep the legs pretty much the same, because, again, it works. But yeah, a lot to love about this Vapor revamp here. He is a cool character, and it's really cool to see him being getting a bit of love, you know? So really, really solid revamp. Great work, good sir. Let's move on now to a mock by the _double, and this is called Sneed. So I'll just quickly read the description here. It says, the sole guardian of the feed and seed agricultural sector, whose former protector Chuck has gone mysteriously missing. So I love that idea. You know, when you look at some of the actual like animation for Hero Factory, you would see a bunch of kind of random civilians who are also robots. Like you'd see that newscaster lady who was a robot and stuff like that. So I love the idea that there are more robots in Hero Factory. Of course, this guy is actually a hero, but it kind of just seems to expand the world a little bit. You know, what are the agricultural areas of Hero Factory? What's it like to just be a random townsperson? What sort of like culture does the Hero Factory world have that wasn't really explored in the sets? So I think just the concept of this is awesome, but I think the concept of this would have been awesome too if it actually wasn't a hero and it was just some random farmer dude who the heroes protect, you know? But I think both are really cool ideas, but I think the idea of that alone, just sort of seeing like, okay, well, what's it like to be a truck driver in the Hero Factory world, you know? All that sort of stuff, you know? What's it like to be a dog in the Hero Factory world? And then building that, you know, just expanding the world, expanding the culture a little bit. It could be a really fun way of just approaching HF Feb or building a Hero Factory mock. I think it's a really cool idea, and I love that this mock touches upon that. So yes, a farmer hero, not your everyday thing that you might see, but I really do like it. I think it's really cool. I love how he's blocked all these colors together to make it look like he's wearing those overalls, to make it look like he's wearing a green shirt, and how the yellow itself looks like skin, you know? Kind of reminds me a little bit too of just like Lego City or very typical Lego minifigures, how they have yellow skin. And of course, this is to some degree maybe an homage to that in some fashion, which I think is very fitting. And I love too that he's using Furno's red helmet there over the top, because it kind of looks like he's just wearing a red hat of sorts, like you might see a farmer wearing. So like that kind of has to some degree a bit of a double meaning there, or he's just, you know, wearing a Hero Factory helmet to protect his head from damage, you know. But the fact that it's red, I think, is obviously a very deliberate choice and works really well. It's really cool. Additionally, too, he has this awesome pitchfork here. Really, really nice design. Very simply done. Using a lightsaber rod, connecting some of those connector pieces, and then putting some katanas on top of that to create that beautiful looking pitchfork design. It's really, really nice. It's really nice indeed. So yeah, a lot going on here that I think is really, really cool. Really simple, but really cool. And also he's got those sort of baggy dad jeans as well, which is fun. I think that's also a nice addition, just kind of bulking that out at the bottom there. It's cool. So yeah, really, really awesome. Let's move on now to the next mock. This is by Student Scissors, and this is Snip Snaps. Fun name, and I think this mock is really fun in general. I'll just quickly talk about this first bit, because there's a surprise inside. I love his weapons, how they use some of those older Rakshi pieces, and it really does make it look like some sort of really elaborate robotic sort of gear scissor contraption of some sort. Just the natural kind of textures and look of those pieces does have this more sort of mechanical Greebuild like detail to it. And so it's really nice to see them being used in conjunction with like some Hero Factory bones and a few other older dark grey pieces there, to really give him this interesting mechanical industrial look. You know, he looks like a sort of bruiser character that could really mess you up. And it kind of reminds me to some degree of certain Transformers as well. It's just leaning into some really fun aesthetics there and just looks really cool. And it's just a great way of using some of those more, at this point, older pieces. It's really cool. Also, too, I think the head design's very unique, using some of the old, Tahu Mata hand pieces and stuff there in an older grey as well. Just an interesting head design, and starts to play in with some of those textures as well. But here's the surprise inside that I was talking about before. This mock is to some degree a little combiner guy. So here's a little crab, here's a little scorpion as well. The two of them slot together, come together, and form this much larger, awesome character. And I love that. I think that's great. You know, like I said, there's obviously to some degree some Transformer inspiration there with like a combiner con of sorts. But I love so much the idea of just fitting that into the Hero Factory universe, you know? What sort of tropes or things exist on villains in other pop culture and media? And can you then implement that into a Hero Factory villain? Because it works well. It works really well. And also, like, this crab and this little, to some degree, a little scorpion or maybe a lobster of sorts. A little hard to tell exactly what it is. But regardless, they're also really solid mocks. And it's cool to see that these two mocks work so well individually and then put together form an even cooler looking guy. That's always one of the harder things about having a mock that transforms or combines or moves around in some fashion, is that one form can sometimes look a bit nicer than the other one, because heck, it's not easy to make something transform and also have it aesthetically look really nice. But this guy's done that flawlessly. I really didn't expect this transformation, and it's seamless and beautiful, which is fantastic. I also love too that this crab, and also to some degree the lobster scorpion dude, the color blocking on them is still just as beautiful and just as nice, you know. The arms and the legs specifically on the crab, the grey is focused in there, and it's kind of sort of the same on the little lobster dude as well. It's still very neat and tidy and organized, as it is on both forms. So it's really nice to see just how effective these mocks are on their own and together. It's really just a nice sight to behold. So really, really solid, really, really awesome work. And such an unexpected little play feature that I think goes a long way and makes this character and this general design so unique and so different. It's really cool. So yeah, definitely play around with that if you want to have two mocks fuse into one. Might be something to think about. All right, let's move on now to the second last mock. This is Julius Nex, the IT guy, built by Subpar Builds. And I'll tell you this, your mock is not a subpar build, it is a very good build. This is a fantastic revamp of Julius Nex. I love the different weapons that he's got, this big sort of weird, like, I don't know, almost sort of like spanner screwdriver laser shooty thing. I don't even know what to call that, but it looks awesome. I love the little wires running through it, the little different greebled textured mechanical details that it's got, and just the absurdity of it. It looks so different and distinct, but just looks awesome and so fitting for this character. I love it. And I also love that he's given him this great like hexagonal shield piece that I've spoken about in some of the other episodes of HF Feb. It's just a piece that I love, but I think it's so fitting for Nex here because it does have that sort of technological look to it, and the fact that he's really trying to focus in on the fact that Nex is the smart IT guy who's good with tech and stuff seems like a very fitting shield to give him, because I think just the general look of it very much fits that sort of tech focused look. So it's really, really nice. It's really, really fitting. I love to all the different joints here, so whether it's the knees or the shoulders, the fact that he has hero cores there. And that's actually the way that the lower arm is connected to the upper arm and the lower leg is connected to the upper leg, is by linking those two together and using it as a sort of, just a system to link those together. We see similar things being done on other mocks with like boat studs before. So if you're an avid fan of the Bionicle Inspiration series, you might have seen that on some of the mocks I've talked about, or maybe it's just a technique you're familiar with. But hey, I love that here. I think it's a great way of just of having a unique connection, but it's also just a great way of adding in more of those Hero Factory H's. It just seems very fitting that on this robot that's been built to fight heroes that they'd have the logo plastered everywhere, just in case, just for some cheap free advertising, why not? I like that. I think it's really cool. I think it's really fitting and just looks really nice. And overall, I think this mock in general looks nice. There's some fantastic, there's no like gaps on it. All the armor pieces just flow nicely one into the other. The colors are blocked out very nicely. It's just a really good shining example of a good old revamp for Julius Nex. And one thing I really quickly want to point out before we move on is the upper legs. So if we take a look here, we can see some of that black Ben 10R sort of prefab limb element. We saw some of them in blue on Vapor before, and they're here again. So they had this little lightsaber hole connection sort of towards the base of them. And you could shove a lightsaber rod through it. And he has done so. He's shoved the black one in there through it. And onto that connection, he's then placed a white Hero Factory shell. And I think that's such a beautiful way of having Hero Factory armor on one side and then further armor on the back. Because with your typical prefab heroes, often the back can be a little bit more sort of sparse and unattractive to some degree, but the front is really well armored and looks pretty. So it's great to see here that the back is getting some good treatment, and the front is also getting some good treatment. So there's no sacrifices there, like often occurred on some of the original Hero Factory sets. So seriously, yeah, I think that's absolutely awesome and is a really clever technique. Very simple, very effective, really just appears to be using like 3 pieces. Maybe there's some additional ones inside I'm not aware of, but you should still be able to build that with at least 3 pieces. And it creates an absolutely beautiful design. So awesome, great idea. Certainly something that I would love to play around with myself one day. I think that's fantastic. So yeah, really, really awesome work there. A brilliant revamp of Julius Nex. Let's move on now to the final mock in this episode. It's by Dylan Neves, and it is Hammerhead. So I'll briefly read the description on this, because why not? It says, the muscles of a pirate crew led by Captain Silverbolt. You don't want to meet this shark in the water. A villain made for Hero February, babbity boo. So yeah, fun little backstory. Sometimes just adding a little sentence or two to a mock can just really enhance it. So that's, again, something you could think about if you want to post some heroes or post any kind of Bionicle in the future. It's well worth doing. But yeah, I love the head design on this guy here, using some of those larger Technic panel pieces in grey. Gosh, it looks exactly like a Hammerhead, and it's just so fitting and just such a quirky, different head design for a construction character that I've just not seen before. It's really, really nice. Using those ball joints as well for the eyes, that's just awesome. And the way on the back he's layered all these different grey Hero Factory pieces, it just kind of looks like the sort of texture you might see on a shark. It's fantastic. And the weapon too is also fantastic. It's just a big old anchor. It's got the chain hanging off it still. Like, he's that strong that he's just picked up an anchor and is using it as an offensive weapon. I think that's really, really sick. I love too as well the pants on this guy. Just the idea of changing up the color so that he's wearing some form of pants, but also the fact that he's using one of those Silent Mary sail pieces there in dark tan, just to kind of round it off a little bit. Like, maybe he's just got some cloth that he's wrapped around his waist, or maybe he's taken the sail from the pirate ship and is using it as pants of some kind. I think it's just cool, and the natural kind of like flared, frayed texture of that cloth just gives him this more sort of like chaotic, sort of pirate look, which is the point of this character. It's very fitting and very, very cool. I also love, too, the tail that he's got there. I imagine that's also some sort of weapon that he uses to fight heroes. I love that. It's just a beautiful way of taking the concept of a hammerhead and turning it into a more humanoid character and making it sort of slightly goofy, a little bit fun, but still menacing and cool, which I think is very fitting for that general kind of Hero Factory aesthetic. This is really, really an awesome mock. Very unique, very fitting, and I don't know, if you told me that this was actually a Hero Factory set, I'd probably believe you. Less so in the way it's built, because I think it might be a little bit too complicated for a Hero Factory set. But the general kind of character design seems so fitting for that world. I really, really love that. So yeah, maybe it's worth looking up different sort of aquatic life or different animals and seeing if you can base a villain off of them, because hey, could work just as well as this mock does. So yeah, that's it for all these different hero and villain mocks today. Finished strong with a really good one from Dylan there. And that's it for our coverage of HF Feb. Sad face. It's a shame that it's over, but like I said, we'll get more in the future. More Hero Factory episodes are, of course, coming the way. And hey, if you built a mock for HF Feb and it wasn't featured in this little quick coverage of HF Feb, do not feel sad, because, like I said, there'll be more Hero Factory episodes on the way soon. And I've still got a bunch of different Hero Factory submissions that were submitted to the email, so it doesn't mean that they won't appear in the future, and that tends to be how episodes work. If people submit a lot of the same sort of concept, I go, okay, well, I'll just put them all together and make an episode and a theme based off of what they all fit in. So, seems that a Hero Factory episode will be here in the near but distant future, but since we just did like 3 in a row, I will take a quick break from Hero Factory, focus a bit more on the Bionicle side of things, and then we'll come back to it in time. And it'll be good fun, so you can eagerly wait till then. Anyway, that's it for this episode today. Quick plugs before we finish. If you want to take a look at the mocks you saw in today's episode, there's links in the description below. Be sure to check out the other work that these builders have done. Give them a little bit of love. Let them know your thoughts on these mocks, because, man, they're beautiful. So, yeah, be sure to take a look at all their stuff. And also be sure to take a look at some of my stuff. Some of the links to my social media are below. I am working on a hero for Hero Factory, for HF Feb. It's like, I just need to do the legs and a little, fun thing for its, weapon. So it's you can stay tuned for that. I've been surprisingly busy in February, so it may be a very late addition to HF Feb, or HF March, which doesn't exist. That's not a thing. But, that might be when I post it. But yeah, I'll have one soon, don't you worry. And, additionally, if you want to submit your own mocks to the show, whether they're heroes or villains or Bionicles or just general construction stuff, this is the email you need to submit it to. It's on your screen right now. It's also in the description below if you want to copy and paste it. Send me pictures, info, whatever you want to put in the email. Doesn't even matter what the theme is of it. Just submit it, and I'll base an episode around it when I can, and one day it'll appear on the show. But your patience is key. I've got a lot of submissions to work through. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Love you tons. Be kind to yourself. Take care of yourselves. Happy building. Bye for now.